of renewable energy and energy efficiency sector. This is the title of the project. It's a little bit long. To have our first webinar, which has a title, Sustainable Energy of Egypt, State of Play and New Initiatives. This webinar is the first of a series of webinars which will be tackle the different aspects of the energy sector in Egypt. The project support to technical and financial sustainability of the renewable energy and energy efficiency sector is an EU-funded technical support project to the energy sector in Egypt. The project is conducted through an agreement with both the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy and the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. The project is executed through a consortium of consulting firms, including DAI Human Dynamics as a leader for the consulting team in cooperation with Tractable NG and Lamire International. Lamire International already has been acquired by Tractable since 2014. The consortium has a long experience with the energy sector in Egypt through several previous projects. The project consists of 5 components, including Component a reorganization of the core functions of NAREA. This is especially for the planning functions, renewable energy investment, and energy efficiency. Component B, which is about modernizing of renewable energy framework, which includes the technical, legal, and regulatory frameworks to increase the capacity of the energy system to absorb more renewable energy and investments in the energy efficiency. Component C, which is energy modeling capacity building and strengthening, which includes the establishment and building the capacity of the energy modeling unit, as well as update and extension of the integrated and sustainable energy strategy of Egypt 2035 to be extended to 2040. Component D, contributing to create an enabling and conducive environment for renewable energy and energy efficiency. This component includes establishment of a Cairo Sustainable Energy Information Center for communication and awareness regarding renewable energy and energy efficiency. Finally, component E, which is a technical assistance to the energy efficiency and climate change in the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, which includes enhancing the organizational structure of the energy efficiency unit at the ministry, business plan for the coming 2 years, and capacity building for the expert of Ministry of Petroleum and Renewable and Mineral Resources. Our webinar today will focus on some of the relevant topics, specifically promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency in different sectors, targeted goals, impact of COVID-19 on the development plan, and how it can represent an opportunity rather than being an obstacle. And finally, plans to achieve Egypt goals to achieve 42% of the electricity share coming from renewable and 18% energy efficiency out of the consumption expected by 2035. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Beltagi, Dr. Ahmed Beltagi, Energy and Transport Sector Manager at the EU delegation to Egypt for an introductory words. Please, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Hafiz, for this excellent introduction. I'll just say some few words before leaving the floor to my colleagues to listen to their interesting views. I would like, first of all, to thank all the panelists who accepted to participate in this webinar. I would like also to extend our appreciation and thanks to the participants, but also to the organizers of this event. So, Egypt and the EU have a close cooperation in the energy sector and signed 2 consecutive MOU for strategic cooperation in energy. We have partnered with Egypt in a large number of projects, providing grants to soften loans, to expand infrastructure projects, and also to provide technical expertise. Our cooperation was basically structured on 4 pillars: the good governance, establishing of internal markets, demand-side management or energy efficiency, and last but not least, scientific cooperation. The aim is not to provide you with a list of projects or with figures about the amount of funds injected. The aim is to let you know that the cooperation was and is still intense with nearly all stakeholders of the Egyptian energy sector. One of the most challenging assignments we were proud to carry out closely with our Egyptian counterparts is the Sustainable Energy Strategy 2035. The strategy involves stepping up the use of renewables and improving energy efficiency in the power sector. The government has set targets for renewables to make up an important part of the country's electricity mix by 2035, based on rapid solar and, of course, wind deployment. A lot of efforts were exerted in order to produce the strategy, and the EU is still providing support to update it, taking into account a number of ongoing events that encompass COVID, but not limited to it, as it extends to include the current level of gas production, but also the current level of electricity generation. We can legitimately brainstorm together about a number of topics, and I will mention only a few. For instance, the status of streamlining regulations and institutional roles and responsibilities for wind and solar development. I mean the work needed to further apply the different clauses of the Electricity Act, in particular with respect to carving out clearly separated entities that have clear roles and responsibilities, reforming the current market framework to improve project bankability, finalizing the establishment of the entity tasked up with updating energy and power sector. And I think that your project is working on this front. The building of renewable energy projects to strengthen risk mitigation and ensure their financial viability. Biomass, the development of a master plan for enhancing local manufacturing capabilities, and so on and so forth. So a lot of issues and a lot of axes of reflection that we can legitimately think of, based on the fact that the work on the strategy has been time-consuming and involved all the Egyptian stakeholders and participants. The last point I would like to mention is the European Green Deal. The overarching aim of the European Green Deal, as you all know, is for the European Union to become the world's first climate neutral bloc by 2050. It has goals extending to many different sectors, including construction, biodiversity, energy, transport, and foods. The aim, again, is not to explain the deal, but to highlight the fact that there will be a lot of lessons learned that would benefit other partner countries such as Egypt. Think tanks in Europe have already started to brainstorm about the Green Deal from different angles. For instance, they are thinking about the appropriateness of the market design developments proposed by the European Commission in the Clean Energy Package. They are also thinking about the best practices to introduce scarcity pricing via reforms of balancing and reserve mechanism, managing congestions on the transmission network, designing efficient electricity markets to achieve multiple policy objectives, the impact of renewables on electricity markets in the short term and the long term. How can we efficiently interface with the European carbon trading scheme be achieved? What does the latest ETS reform phase for phase 4 entail? And so also a lot of lessons learned, a lot of things that will be drawn out of this very important initiative by the European Commission. So just to update you, the European Commission has also launched a 1 billion euro call for research and innovation projects that respond to the climate crisis and help protect Europe's unique ecosystem and biodiversity. The Horizon 2020 funded European Green Deal call, which was open for registration a couple of days ago, is expected to foster Europe's recovery from the coronavirus crisis by turning green challenges into innovation opportunities. The 1 billion European Green Deal call is the last and biggest call tender under the Horizon 2020 program. And with innovation at its heart, this investment will accelerate a just and sustainable transition to a climate neutral Europe by 2050. As we do not want, Europe does not want anyone left behind in the systemic transformation. Europe calls for specific actions to engage with citizens in novel ways and improve societal relevance and impact. I'm just mentioning this to highlight the importance of research and innovation in any national dialogue to solve challenges related to the sector. Indeed, the coming years will witness also a transformation of the energy markets and networks. The phrase Uberize energy, like Uber, has been tossed around at regulatory conferences by industry watchers and even by the World Economic Forum. And it's a captivating opener. Whether we are talking miles or megawatts, who isn't drawn to the idea of using technology and entrepreneurship to transform a highly regulated industry that is slow to innovate, especially when disruption poses a threat to, I would say, it's very core of survival with a dash of technology, some business model innovation, and app-savvy customers. We are all on the road to a new future, even in the energy sector. With this, I'm done. Many thanks for your attention, and I wish you all an excellent webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for this very informative speech. Sure, the Green Deal, it's a part of our program of webinars. One of the webinars downstream will include a description and background about the Green Deal. Sure, the point you mentioned about the ongoing energy transition so far and sector integration between different sectors, transport sector, energy sector, gas sector, electricity sector, even telecom and digitalization sectors are very much important, and this becomes a trademark for the energy transition. Today, we are lucky to have two distinguished speakers. And it's quite evident we have now 68 attendees who are 69 now, who are attending our webinar. Actually, we have Dr. Mohammed Al-Khayyat, Chairman of New and Renewable Energy Authority, and Engineer Ahmed Abdrabbo, Assistant Chief of Petroleum Central Department at the Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources. We're going to have first the two presentations by our presenters, and then for the attendees, any question you would like to forward, please write it in English, in Arabic, and then we will collect all questions and try to pose it to our speakers by the end of the seminar. If you allow me to present Dr. Khayyat. Dr. Khayyat is the Executive Chairman of New and Renewable Energy Authority, NAREA. He is the Chairperson of Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Committee at the League of Arab States. Also, he has over 25 years of experience in the field of energy and environment. He participated in drafting Pan-Arab Renewable Energy Strategy issued by League of Arab States in 2010. He participated also in drafting renewable energy laws and regulations in Egypt. He received many awards from different countries and worked with different regional and international entities. Dr. Khayyat has issued 9 books, 5 already published as a printed and 4 are e-books. Also, I know that Dr. Khayyat has a journalist talented. He is participating as an opinion, with his opinion, share his opinion with many newspapers. And please follow his opinion in several newspapers. I understood that in Al-Watan, Dr. Khayyat, you
الأهرام والخليج.
Al-Ahram wal-Khalid. So please follow Dr. Khayyat. Today, Dr. Khayyat will speak to us about impact of the COVID-19 on the renewable energy market in Egypt, plans for the government to reach as well as the plans for the government to reach the 2035 sustainable energy goals, which is 42% share of renewable energy in the electricity. Dr. Khayyat, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hafiz, for the introduction. And also, I would like to say for all of you, good morning, everybody. And I hope that all of you are safe Also, I would like to thank EU for the continuous support for Egypt in both renewable energy and energy efficiency activities, either for the paving the way for more implementation dissemination for projects, and also the capacity building for the Egyptian staff to work in both fields. Also, I would like to thank Human Dynamics and its team, either in Egypt, in France, and in different countries, to support Egypt during this project. Through my presentation, I will try to focus regarding the renewable energy in Egypt, some challenges that we're already facing due to COVID-19, and how could we overcome, and some potential activities to be done. May I think that you will share the, or may I share my?
Share?
You can share.
Okay, I can share. Okay.
Presentation. Yes,
okay, thank you very much.
Yes, it's done. Ah, yes, okay, it's now.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Regarding the renewable energy in Egypt, we can say that during the last 5 years, we witnessed a frog leap in the implementation of different renewable energy projects. Almost when we compare between the year 2015 and the year 2020, we can say that more than 60% of the installed capacities already installed. In 2015, there were around 3.7 gigawatt, including hydropower. Now we are almost 6 gigawatt, in addition to other projects already in the implementation. When we have a look regarding the energy already generated from different renewable energy sources, we will see that hydropower still has the major share, in addition to wind and solar after implementing Bimban Solar Complex, in addition to CSP and bioenergy. Regarding the capacities already installed in Egypt for the hydropower, we are speaking about almost 2,800 of megawatt. Almost most of the hydropower resources already exploited. Consequently, now we don't have any more potential to be installed for hydro. And if we include the pump and storage in Ata and in different areas, it could be some of the potential projects to be installed. Regarding wind energy, and if we would like to summarize wind energy history in Egypt in numbers, we can say that we have two wind energy complex, Zafarana wind complex, almost 540 megawatt, in addition to Gulf of Zayt wind energy complex, and all of them are owned by New and the Renewable Energy Authority, NRAA, in addition to the first BOO project, which is already in operation since October 2019. In addition to that, we have two projects now under the construction with total capacity 500. One of them is BOO project, and the other one is already owned by NRAA, which is recently signed in last August. In addition to that, there are three projects with total capacity 1,500. Each one is 500 megawatt. And all of them will be owned by the private sector and will be implemented in Gulf of Suez. Through this, these numbers, we can see that the major share for wind energy projects which will be implemented during the coming few years will be for the private sector, which is the most intention for the government to expand the role for the private sector. Consequently, when we compare for the investment for wind energy, we can say that we are almost close to $4 billion for wind, mostly for the year 2020, and despite the COVID-19, we are speaking about almost 5 billion Egyptian pounds already invested in wind energy projects, either for the private sector and the public projects. For the solar energy, Bemban Solar Complex is one of the world key marks all over the world regarding the PV projects, almost 1465 megawatt with total investment more than $2 billion US dollar. All of these investments already bumped through international financing institutions and also regional ones, which, frankly speaking, gives different and many positive messages. The first one is the attractiveness to invest in Egypt in general, and the ability of renewable energy to attract foreign direct investment to the Egyptian market. In addition to that, the harmony among all the governmental entities to orchestrate their efforts as a one team to fulfill the requirements for the private sector, especially if we know that Bemban Solar Complex consists of 32 projects, 30 out of them already implemented in the same time, which was a challenge. And frankly speaking, it was also an amazing success story, which could be followed or represented or to be copied in either in other places or in different countries. In addition to that, we have Kuraimat CSP project. We have a small PV project in Komombo. But in addition to that, we have in the pipeline almost more than 500 megawatt already secured for either in tendering or in the development, and most of them will be implemented by the private sector. This is also confirms the intention for the government to maximize the share of private sector during the coming period for implementing either wind or solar energy projects. Total investment for solar is almost around $3 billion US dollar, which is also gives a good example and the indication for the investment in renewable energy during the last 4 or 5 years in Egypt. Based on what has been achieved, we can say that based on this, for the right-hand side, we can see some achievements already gotten based on the implementation of such renewable energy projects, the more advancement for the ranking in renewable energy, in the climate change, in the investment, some different international recommendations regarding the investment in Egypt in general and in renewable energy in specific. For the left-hand side map, it represents the locations for the renewable energy projects already implemented in different areas. We can see Bemban, we can see hydro in Aswan, we can see also photovoltaic all over the country and in many areas. This is regarding the renewable. Also, I do recommend all follow the indicator or the pamphlet, which is we at NEREA issue it in quarterly NEREA meter, and you can get it from NEREA website, and you can find in this pamphlet what we can see a screenshot for the market based on what has been achieved in capacities and also for the energy and some indicators regarding investment in renewable energy. Let us go for the impact of COVID-19 on renewable energy, not only frankly speaking in Egypt, but based on what has been published by the International Energy Agency, IEA, we can see comparing between the investment in 2020 and what has been invested in 2019, that all the energy fields will suffer from shortage of investment. It ranges from 5% to 20%. The only field which has positive percent is renewable energy. Yes, it is less than or almost 1%, but at least it represents the sustainability and the attractiveness for renewable energy. I'm not speaking about the Egyptian market only, but also for the global market. Based on this, it is highly appreciated and highly recommended to work in renewable energy, especially in Egypt, based on two main drivers. The first one is the continuous devaluation of renewable energy prices, and from the other side, the electricity reform prices reform. Also, based on COVID-19, all of us witnessed the negative prices for oil barrel in last April. It means that you can get 1 barrel of oil in addition to $33, which was a catastrophe for the investors in oil. Yes, it was for only 1 month, but it represents the high risk for the investment in either the oil, and if we compare between also for the fluctuations of natural gas based on Henry during the last period based on the COVID-19 actions. Based on that, the effects of or the impact of COVID-19 already affecting, frankly speaking, the financing and the risk for implementing projects, either renewable energy projects or other projects, is increased. Also, long-term plans needs to be revisited, rechecked based on the slowdown of the demand on energy. Could it be adjusted? Do we still need the same amount of energy? How could we foster and increase the growth rate for other sectors such as industrial sector and also tourism sector, commercial sectors, all of these sectors which could be or could derive the demand on energy. Consequently, there will be more demand on electricity and consequently on renewable energy. Also, guarantees is one of the most challenging issues, especially for private sector to invest in any country, either Egypt or others, and which could affect the market stability. Also, the technologies, which technology could be appropriate. Now, the photovoltaic is one of the most competitive in addition to wind, but also we have to look for the waste to energy, and in addition to that, in the future could be for the electrical vehicles. All of these issues must be considered, especially it needs long-term plans for implementation and to have the appropriate infrastructure to have such projects. Also, the direct impact for COVID-19 is regarding the O&M, the slowdown for or the delay for shipping. The projects already in operation, we were lucky that we have in our stores some reserve for the appropriate spare parts, but for sure we hope that after the exercise already done by the COVID-19 to have more stable shipping and also either it will be through the sea or through flights. Also, the effect for how could we implement O&M activities in a safe environment, how the measures for the mitigating the COVID-19 impact or something like this needs more and more measures, in fact, and also it was a challenge. How could we operate and maintain our projects under such risk? And alhamdulillah, we faced different challenges, but alhamdulillah, we're still keeping the operation of our projects with the total capacity. For the future of renewable energy in Egypt, as all of you know, that the target for the 2022 is to have 20%. If we compare between what has been installed in the market now and comparing it with the peak capacity, we can say that it is almost 20%. If we are looking for the total capacity, for sure it will be less. But for the 2035, we do believe that the strategy is more dynamic. The first issue for the strategy was targeting 37% of renewable energy by the year 2035. Based on the updating of the strategy, it could be doubled, it could be more than this, but we do believe, based on the drivers of the development of the technology, the devaluation of its prices, there will be different shares, and the shares of each technology will differ based on those parameters. Consequently, the main target is 40% or more for renewable energy. The main share for such projects will be from the photovoltaic and wind, and also the investors will be mainly from or the developers will be mainly from the private sector. In addition to that, there are different or potential areas for working during the coming period, and based on what has been done by the COVID-19 is to enhance and to increase the market readiness. If we could consider regulations, is to include more and more independent power supply. Now, regulator is working on such a study. In addition to that, more integration for waste to energy projects, and also make the grid able to absorb and to integrate the new technologies such as electrical vehicles. Also, what has been already done for the grid performance and what has been already invested during the last 3 years, more than 40 billion Egyptian pound already invested in the grid, in the electricity grid. We can say more than double what has been installed in length, comparing between the year 2015 and 2019. We are speaking about almost more than 1,200 kilometer for the network. Consequently, extension of the network to many and remote areas. Also, the quality for the grid, and also the regulations to have more share for the private sector. Also, how could we be able and ready for having or to switch for the smart grid? This is one of the main issues which is could have an interest during the coming period, and to be subject for further studies and update. Also, for the project's infrastructure, having more and more renewable energy is not only to install renewable energy projects, either wind, solar, or whatever, but also to get the infrastructure for those projects ready, such as roads. Now we have all the area in Gulf of Suez. We are speaking about almost 1,200 square kilometer, almost double of Singapore area is already ready to host all the projects. The roads for all of this area already done, for the land demarcation, measurements already done, studies, all of these issues also, which is increasing the quality for studies and measurements. As far as we have more measurements, the quality is increasing. This is one of the most topics also to be highlighted and have more focused during the coming period. In addition to that, the quality assurance for PV systems and the recent PV testing lab already installed at Nerea, also, which especially will support the small and medium projects, rooftop projects. And we do realize that such testing lab has a major role to guarantee the quality of such equipment for the Egyptian market. In addition to that, we couldn't forget the energy efficiency, because we usually see coupling and merge between renewable energy and the energy efficiency. In NEREA, we are working on energy efficiency on the demand side. In other words, we have different labs to test and to make sure that the home appliances, such as dishwashers, washing machines, ECs, refrigerators, are according to the standards, and consequently we could guarantee its quality for the Egyptian market. In addition to that, when we couple between renewable energy and energy efficiency, especially for small and medium projects in different sectors, such as industrial and commercial sectors, for sure it's one of the most appropriate solutions to reduce the dependency or the consumption of electricity. Based on that, I think we can summarize or give some key messages that regarding the coming period, that we have still more share for projects development, either for wind and solar. Most share for private sector will be the major role during the coming period. Also, on the national level, the market readiness, how could we enhance the market readiness, either from the regulations, the electricity grid, the infrastructure, the quality of components. There will be more and more efforts already exerted from the public entities. But we have also to consider that not only for Egypt, but for different countries, there will be a challenge between how could we invest for the coming period. After COVID-19, all countries revisit their plans for the investment in the health and digitization sectors. How could most of the tasks done online, such as the webinar today, if we don't have COVID-19, it for sure it will be done in a physical way. Consequently, how could we go for more digitization, not only for the private sector services or activities, but also for the public sector. Also, safety regulations for both installation and O&M under the COVID-19, I think it needs, and there will be a need for more and more efforts for health and safety. In addition to that, it was just a hint regarding the fluctuations of oil and gas, and how could we need a balance between the investment regarding the renewable energy and other activities. These are the ideas or the key messages which I would like to share with you, and thank you very much for your attention.
You are silent, Dr. Hafiz.
I was muted my microphone during, thank you, Engineer Ahmed. Actually, thank you very much, Dr. Khayyat, for a very interesting speech. Actually, Dr. Khayyat pointed out the status of renewable energy projects so far in Egypt. Furthermore, he pointed out the impact of COVID-19 on different energy supply sources, and it's likely that renewable energy, still keeping its momentum compared to other supply sources, has 1% increase in investment compared to other sources which went negative. Finally, Dr. Khayyat drew a roadmap for us for what could be needed in order to achieve our target. Now we reached 81 participants in our webinar. Also, we received several questions. I will keep questions after our second speaker, Engineer Ahmed Abderrabbo. Engineer Ahmed Abderrabbo is Assistant Chief of Petroleum Central Department manager of energy efficiency program within Ministry of Petroleum modernization project. All of us know that there is a modernization project taking place in Ministry of Petroleum and Renewable Energy Resources, and one of the dimensions of this program is energy efficiency. Engineer Ahmed Abdurabbo has got his master's degree in the field of environment economics, management and policy from the International Industrial Institute for Environmental Economics, Lund University in Sweden. I will not mention date, Engineer Ahmed. He also got his bachelor degree in mechanical power engineering from Ain Shams University, last century. Engineer Ahmed has more than 30 years. You told by yourself. I try.
Okay, you can keep it for yourself.
30 years of professional experience, both in the field of energy and environment, in management, executive, coordinating and consulting positions. Engineer Ahmed has participated within the Egyptian delegation for the UN climate change negotiation and contributed to the climate change capacity building program in Egypt. He also participated in many energy efficiency, energy pricing, and climate change related projects and studies program in cooperation with different international institutions, just to name World Bank, USAID, EU, Global GEF, UNDP, EBRD, JICA. Also, he participated in the sustainable development of local and international activities and events, ended by attending Rio 20+ summit in Rio. Engineer Ahmed will speak to us about the energy efficiency and renewable energy in the oil and gas sector. Please, Engineer Ahmed, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to thank you and UN Dynamics for implementing and designing this wonderful and important project. I would like also to thank the organizer for all the activities and effort done to organize this webinar. As a start, I would like to introduce the background of the energy efficiency in the petroleum sector. With the Egyptian revolution in 2011, 2012, and the shortage in electricity and the gas supply, we have a prime minister degree to reduce the electricity consumption in all the governmental building by 20%. And this was the start point for energy efficiency in the petroleum sector. After we achieved this target almost from reducing our electricity consumption in our building, we realized that we didn't have energy efficiency in our own companies, in our own activities. So in February 2015, we established the Supreme Energy Efficiency Committee for the petroleum sector. And with the working activities of this committee, we realized we are lacking a lot of elements of energy efficiency. And when we started the modernization project, we try to overcome all this and build all these elements. So I will go back to my presentation. My presentation today will cover 3 main issues. The first one is the energy efficiency activities in the oil and gas sector. And then the second element will be the renewable energy in oil and gas sector. Although it is not our core business, but we realize that we have to have renewable energy component in our activities. The third one is the International Sustainable Energy Initiative and how we are preparing the petroleum sector to cope with this sustainable initiative, sustainable energy initiative. As I said, we realized that from the activities of the Supreme Energy Efficiency Committee established in 2015 that we lack a lot of elements of the energy efficiency. So when we start our modernization project, we set up 7 objectives of this energy efficiency program. 4 of them we considered as a short term, and short term means we have to start with these activities, and the long term we we mean by long term we should wait 2 or 3 years to start this long term objective. So I will go quickly with the 7 objectives, and then I will detail the achievement of all these objectives after this. The first objective is to set up institutional energy efficiency department or committees or even working groups in all the petroleum sector companies, holding companies or EGBC or all the affiliated company. The second objective is to develop and capacity building for energy efficiency. The third one is to build database, because if we don't know your consumption, you cannot manage your consumption and improve your consumption. And the first short-term objective is to implement low-cost, no-cost energy efficiency activities. And in the long term, we have also set 3 objectives. One of them is to introduce energy efficiency oriented technologies for unit operation, and the second one is to develop a system performance optimization for all our companies, and then the third one is to develop legal and administrative framework for energy efficiency for the petroleum sector. So I will present the achievement of each objectives. The first one is to set institutional setup. So in August 2018, we established the Energy Efficiency and the Climate Division at the Ministry of Petroleum by a ministerial degree with powerful authorities and capabilities, so we can develop all what we would like. We can cooperate with all the institutions. We can ask for any information from our sister government companies. And also we established energy efficiency department in all our holding company, EGBC, the Egyptian General Petroleum Corporation, EGAZ, Ganub al-Wadi holding company, and also for the petrochemical holding company. And we are now in the process to finalize energy efficiency department in all the affiliated company. We succeeded to develop energy efficiency department in all the energy intensive companies, and we're working with the other affiliated company. The second objective is to develop capacity for energy efficiency in our petroleum sector. So we developed what we call is a long-term training plan. We selected 15 training program, and this 15 training program is replicated according to the demand. We replicated each of this program maybe 5 or 6 or 7 times according to the demand. And we put some sort of action plan where these courses will be delivered and when and who will develop this or conduct this training program. We have 5 companies from the petroleum sector companies that were capable to develop training material and secure a good trainer for this program. So this program was conducted by these companies. We started this long-term training plan mid of 2019, and we are finalizing this. We're supposed to finalize this program, training program, by May or April 2020, but for COVID and 19 and their impact on the training activities and all this regulation to gathering people, we delayed some of the program, but we expect to complete this training program by October, early November 2020. We conducted about 72 training program. We succeeded to train about more than 1,000 trainees in our affiliated company and also in our EGBC and holding company. For development database, before our program, we know of the overall consumption of the sector, whether it's oil or natural gas or other petroleum. But when we develop our database, we succeeded to know different composition of the consumption and who are consuming by sector and also by companies. So we know now that the oil production company is a major consumer. They consume about 41% of our consumption. And the gas processing is the lowest one, is consuming about 17%, and then refineries the second, and the petrochemical the third. We also know the consumption by type. By natural gas is the major consumer, consuming source of energy in our sector, and then comes the off gases that released from the different processes, and then diesel fuel, and then we have APG, associated petroleum gas, and electricity, and in the end we have the mazut, which is now not commonly used in our sector. As I said, we would like to send a message to all the top management of the petroleum sector that energy efficiency is cost effective. So we implemented low cost, no cost savings, and we were very much keen to document all this saving by documenting the baseline and then the consumption and production after implementing the low cost, no cost measure. And we succeeded to save about 428 million Egyptian pound. And this was in natural gas, electricity, mixed fuel, and steams. And this was mainly in the energy intensive companies, refineries, petrochemical, and some of upstream companies. And as I said, we have to introduce some some oriented energy efficiency technologies. So we start with Untitled by motor system optimization and also fire equipment optimization. We have a lot of boilers, we have a lot of heaters heating the crude oil field for distillation. So we started with such repeated technologies, and we have succeeded to have a lot of project implemented with Untitled, and also a lot of equipment have been installed in different refineries by our own investment. And we started with cooperation with the European Bank for Restructure and Development to implement large investment project. So we conducted several studies for Suez Oil Processing Company, for Gasco, the main transmission companies for natural gas, and for Alexandria Petroleum companies. The first company, Suez Oil Processing Company, now have after conducting two studies with the support of EBRD, we have a loan of $250 US to revamp most of the energy intensive equipment at the Suez Oil Processing Company. And also with the Gasco, we have another 200 million loan to develop energy efficiency in Dahshun compression station and in other activities in Gasco. And we are in the final stage for concluding the study for Alexandria Petroleum Company. We have a preliminary agreement to have also $250 US for revamping some units and to introduce some new units in Alexandria Petroleum Company. As I said, we have to develop legal framework and the standard operation procedure for the petroleum sector. And we succeeded to have two major projects with EU and Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA. The main component of this two projects is to develop energy efficiency strategy for the petroleum sector and to operationalize of the energy efficiency department at the Ministry of Petroleum to develop short-term and long-term working plan. Also to develop manual energy efficiency manual and standard operating procedure for different intensive energy consuming equipment and unit. We also continue in a capacity building with this two projects, and we also would like to have energy efficiency technical audit. We started to develop tailored energy efficiency technical audit methodology to be used for the Ministry of Petroleum, and we will conduct 4 energy audit in our companies, 2 in the refineries and 1 in the petrochemical facility and 1 in the upstream. And we started commissioning the first refinery right now. This concludes the energy efficiency activities in the petroleum sector. I will go very quickly for the renewable energy because we have a lot of insights from Dr. Hayat. Actually, we try to have some cooperation with NRA, and I will discuss this very soon. During the electricity shortage, we started to develop our renewable energy equipment, our technologies and the project. We asked all our companies to have a dedicated PV system for the rooftop in the administrative building. Now we have 21 companies installed about 1.3 megawatt. I know that very small compared by the achievement of the renewable sector, but this is not our comparison right now. Another 38 companies in the process of installing about 6.3 megawatt. Megawatt, yes. Also, we have some dedicated PV in our offshore oil and gas production wells. This is not common, but we use this where we have unmanned cell operating well. We have 2 cases, one in Petrobel company and one in GAPCO. In 2018, we have a memo of understanding with the NRA between Ganub, the holding company for oil in our petroleum sector, to develop some promising sites to develop geothermal project. We studied potential, but this memorandum was not activated till now, and we're supposed to activate it very soon. This photo is a photo of signing the memorandum of understanding for the strategic cooperation with the EU, signed in April 2018. And recently, with the Erasmus project, we signed a memorandum of understanding also with the NRA and the 5 national universities and 3 international universities. I guess this project should have a lot of attention from our both sides, from NRA and also from Ganub, because this will establish center and new graduate engineering diploma for geothermal, and we have a high potential for geothermal, and we can make use of the depleted oil well to reduce the cost of the project. We also have a capacity component and technical capacity building and the capacity building for the economic and the evaluation and return of the geothermal activities. And we would like to also to establish some cooperation with the EU in the geothermal energy field. I came to the third component of my presentation, which is the International Sustainable Energy Initiative. Actually, I limit myself to the two initiatives that were developed by our counterpart in energy efficiency in the Ministry of Petroleum. So I have from the Japan, MITI, the Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry of Japan. In 2017, Japan developed the Japan hydrogen strategy as a main strategy to try to deal with the climate change and to reduce their emission. And they have a target to reduce 26% of their GHG emission by 2030 and 80% by 2050. And this percentage is from the 1990 emission level. And they pointed for key point of activity for this strategy. The first one is the supply side and how to increase the realized low-cost hydrogen production and use, and to develop utilization technologies, and they very much have concentrating in fuel cell technology and fuel cell car, and how to develop the international standard in this area. And we are in Egypt try to promote electric cars, so we have to have a compromise. Should we follow the fuel cell vehicle or electric car directly? So we have to investigate this. Also, the use of hydrogen in power generation, in mobility, and potential use of hydrogen in industrial process and the heat utilization. And the last point in this strategy is to build awareness. For the EU, as Dr. Ahmed Al-Biltagi mentioned, and Dr. Hafiz mentioned the European Green Deal, the European Union developed two strategies for under the umbrella of the European Green Deal. The first strategy is the EU Energy System Integration Strategy and the Hydrogen Strategy. The Green Deal itself has a four objective. The first one is EU to become a climate neutral by 2050 and to protect human life, animal, plant, and by cutting all pollutions, to help companies become a world leader in the in clean production product, and also to help just and inclusive transition to more clean energy. Also under preparation right now, the carbon border tax, and this carbon border tax has a lot of debate about their impact on the global trade. They also have some complexity in the implementation and how to put the value of this carbon tax. But the process, I'm sure, will end by, as they plan, by June 21. I would like to say in conclusion that all the outlook in the world indicates the reduction of all the fossil fuel consumption, even natural gas. We can see natural gas, the green line is increasing from 19 until we reach 2035, but the rapid out scenario of the BBB forecasts that the demand of or consumption of natural gas will be reduced also, and we can see the oil production, or oil demand, or primary energy consumption of petroleum oil is going down, and this rapid scenario of BBB project or forecast rapid reduction. Also, we can see the renewable is booming, and This is very clear indication for all oil and gas companies to try to cope with this transition. Right now in the petroleum sector, we are investigating how to deal with this green transition, and we are in the process of developing a green transition roadmap for the petroleum sector. With this, I conclude my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ahmed. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Actually, Engineer Ahmed pointed out about the effort of Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources regarding developing a database for their consuming company. Actually, he shows that about 5.5 million ton oil equivalent being consumed with the sector, which represents by 2018 around 8.5%, which make it of the total energy demand in Egypt, which is one of the major sector, and this is why focus is very much important. Also, he pointed an excellent approach, which is followed through focusing first on low-cost, no-cost applications, which is saved over 400 million Egyptian pounds, which shows that it's not necessary to go for very expensive project at the beginning. Start with low cost, no cost, and this also has an impact of over 300,000 tons of CO2. Also, he shows the cooperation with several international partners, specifically in very interesting area like hydrogen. In this aspect, I also would like to point out about the European hydrogen strategy, which has been issued back in last July. Also, we in this project are developing in the energy strategy, what we call it the hydrogen scenario. And this will be part of the 2040 energy strategy. Also, he pointed by the end impact of reduction in demand, which is basically leading to our question. I excuse you if we can extend our meeting for additional 15 minutes to give a chance to respond to the question. We received a lot of questions. We reached 82 participants, and we would like to respond as maximum as possible to the question we received. I appreciate if the presenter answer in a short words for the question to give a chance to as much as possible question we have. Engineer Ahmed, would you like to say something? Or? Okay. Actually, we received questions from abroad. It shows that we are not just being shown nationally, but also internationally. Most of the questions I grouped for both Dr. Khayyat and Engineer Ahmed regarding worries about the reduction in demand as a result of impact of COVID-19 long term. Actually, Dr. Khayyat shows the short-term impact of COVID-19, but many of our participants are worried about the long-term impact of COVID-19 on demand, specifically on prices of energy, as well as on demand for energy. And is that might lead to reverse the plan from going for more renewable because fuels become cheaper, or because we have an excess of supply which reduce interest in energy efficiency. I appreciate Dr. Khayyat provide your thoughts, and Engineer Ahmed provide also your thoughts, but please be focused to give a chance for more questions.
Unfortunately, I couldn't hear you well due to the internet connection. I'm sorry for this.
The question is basically about the long-term impact of COVID-19. It shows the short-term impact in light of reduction in demand, as well as reduction in price of conventional fuels. Is that going to have an impact in investment? Engineer Ahmed shows us that renewable might grow, but this was an estimate made 2019, not before COVID-19. So do we expect that it's going to have an impact, as well as surplus in supply would create less interest in energy efficiency? Please.
Thank you very much, Yani. Let us say if we coupled what has been presented by Mr. Ahmed regarding the expectation in 2019 and what has been issued already by the International Energy Agency regarding the slowdown of demand on energy sectors or on energy resources, only a positive indicator was for renewable energy. This could give us an indication regarding that renewable energy will keep, at least for a short period, in a positive, in the positive direction. But for sure, if the second wave for the COVID-19 lasting for a long period, for sure the consumption sectors, mainly in all countries regarding the industrial, touristic, commercial, and even agriculture sector will reduce its demand on energy. Consequently, it will slow down the generation plans. But our hope is during the coming period, and according to what we already listened, either from USA, that there will be a certain vaccine, and there will be a Russian one, and there will be could be a British one. All of these news could give us a hope that during a short period, the globe could adapt itself with COVID-19 and has an updated plan. How could we overcome, and how, or at least how could we adapt ourselves with COVID-19 and didn't reduce the development plans? Because according to what has been done all over the world, all sectors already slowed down. Consequently, all GDP all over the world has been reduced. Now we are, if GDP for the worldwide achieved 2%, we will be lucky. Consequently, it will be a very tough game if it lasting. Our hope that renewable energy, based on its features, it could be applied in a small and medium and large scale. It could be, or it could has more flexibility to the needs for countries, especially in Egypt, for the off-grid systems. If we look for the agriculture sector, we can see high potential. All of these applications will be off-grid. Consequently, it will not be affected with COVID-19, rather than the need for the agriculture sector. Also, if we consider the reform of fuel prices during, which is already announced by the government, and also the plans for the future, it could be one of the most promising to have more and more share of renewable energy regarding the agriculture sector or off-grid application. Also, the potential for waste to energy. Yes, it could be now a small application. There is a feed-in tariff project. There is a feed-in tariff system. It might take a short period for adjusting and how to get the experience with such projects, but for sure it will have a certain share during the coming period. What I would like to summarize is, based on the flexibility of renewable energy, its advantage to be implemented in terms of 1 kilowatt up to 1 gigawatt even, we will have more and more adaptation from renewable energy, and to keep in momentum, even it could be less, but it will keep in positive. Thank you very much.
Engineer Ahmed, could you provide your thoughts?
But would like to say that Dr. Al-Khayyat have covered most of the impact of COVID-19. Actually, I would like to first of all respond to the graph that Dr. Al-Khayyat showed us about the deep reduction of the petroleum product price by minus 33 during the few days of the start of the COVID-19. I would like to just clarify this topic because the prices is a matter of balance between supply or production of this oil product, and then the demand of all the economic sector for oil product, and then the storage capacity. With the fall of demand and continuing the production, the supply was very much higher than the demand, and that's why, and all the companies and all the countries all over the world have filled their storage capacity. So the production companies cannot rapidly reduce their production. They have a portfolio of production, and they couldn't reduce their production with the same reduction in the consumption. That's why this deep price during the first 1 month of COVID-19. But I can tell that COVID-19 will have a minor, in the long term, a minor impact on the demand. But the major impact of reducing the demand for oil and gas activities will be from the environmental strategies that is emerging to reduce the GHG emission all over the world, like the strategy of Japan to introduce hydrogen, like the Green Deal in the EU, the state of the United States have another initiative. Also, a lot of countries all over the world has somehow mandate under the Paris Agreement to reduce their emission reduction under the Paris Agreement. Each country has to report national determined contribution to reduce the emission. And this is the long-term impact on the oil and gas activity, because this the consumption is very much related by technologies, and to phase out specific technologies and investment in these technologies, it will take time. But for sure, in the long term, as I have indicated in the scenario of the BP, rapid scenario of the BP, the consumption of oil and gas will be reduced, and all petroleum sector all over the world, oil and gas petroleum sector in the world should consider this impact and should work different scenarios to cope with this. And as I said, COVID will have impact, but will not last forever. But the real impact will come from this new initiative for green economy and for coping with climate change commitments. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Ahmed. Actually, as you said, that environmental impact or environmental driver could be the main driver. Dr. Khayat, I will forward to you 3 questions. Please, Yani, provide your answer in telegraphic form. First, a question about the status of the auctions scheme for renewable energy. We have a second question about the canceling of West Nile projects recently, and which might pose a challenge to the target. And a third question about the competitiveness of the Egyptian local market compared to other regional markets for renewable energy, considering incentives is being offered, which is not being offered in the Egyptian market. Please, in telegraphic.
And telegraphic for the first and second, it could be appropriate if our colleagues from EETC give some clarifications or explanation. Regarding the competitiveness, I do believe that each market has its specific features. It needs tailored policies. For sure, we can compare, but if we look for the North African countries, we can have different experiences even between the Moroccan market and the Egyptian market, and all of them fit for the national needs. This is in a telegraphic one.
Okay. I have a question to Engineer Ahmed regarding the hydrogen. You already have a cooperation with Japan regarding hydrogen. What could be the preliminary perspectives of Ministry of Petroleum regarding hydrogen? For example, in the European strategy, they differentiate between green hydrogen generated from renewable and blue hydrogen generated from oil and gas and other products, and they requested to have a carbon capture and storage for this facility on an interim phase till switch totally to green hydrogen. What's the perspectives of Minister of Petroleum regarding hydrogen so far?
Actually, we are investigating this issue right now because, as you know, we have considerable reserves of natural gas, and we have also liquefaction facilities that liquefy natural gas for export. And it is to develop hydrogen production facility from natural gas. It will take time and also investment, and we have to revamp or adjust our technologies and all the infrastructure to deal with the hydrogen if we would like to use hydrogen locally, or also our export facilities if we think about exporting hydrogen to the EU or any other countries. So it will take time and to take the decision. Actually, all the countries is working now to develop more economic and safe technologies for storage, production, and as you said, the EU have a target to ban all fossil fuel-based hydrogen by 2030. So the gap or the allocated time for exporting this hydrogen to the EU, the hydrogen produced from fossil fuel or from natural gas, is 10 years from now. If we deduct 3 or 4 years to develop the technologies and the capacities, so I'm not sure if this gap of 5 or 6 years is quite enough to recover the investment and cost. But we investigate hydrogen activity issues for local production and for exporting right now. We didn't have a conclusion, but we consider this issue, because if we have a major counterpart, the EU will not import natural gas based from produced from fossil fuel or natural gas by 2030. So we have to reconsider this issue very much.
Thank you.
This is a conclusion for hydrogen.
Yes, thank you very much. Dr. Hayat, there is several questions about waste to energy. One of these questions is questioning, is waste to energy is 100% renewable source, or it's not that renewable? And another question is basically about why biomass energy is neglected in the coming project, although Egypt has high quantities of agricultural waste, urban waste, and what's biomass investor, what incentives being offered for investors in waste to energy?
Thank you very much for the 100% of renewable energy. We do believe, even we are working on renewable energy, that we have to work in an integrating plans. It doesn't mean that we have only one source for generating electricity and other sources of energy, but we have to integrate with others. As much as we succeed to have soft integration for renewable energy, we will have more and more penetration levels and to be secured. Also, regarding the biomass, we have already now the law 41 for the year 2019. It manage the feed-in tariff for the waste to energy. The maximum capacity of the projects is to be 20 megawatt. This means that such projects will be implemented in the level of distribution companies. And there are different rules for the governorate, for the investor, and also for the distribution company. And I think it is already defined in the law, which manage the process of the feed-in tariff for the biomass. This is what I think regarding the second and third. Are there any other questions?
No, it's just saying if it is 100% renewable or not, and what the potential is also.
The potential in Egypt, as you know, is too high for even solar and wind. But as I mentioned, working in planning for energy means that we need to integrate several sources to generate electricity. It doesn't mean to have only one source for 100% and others no. Even there is an integration process to integrate more and more renewable energy projects based on the infrastructure of the grid, the needs, the appropriate technology. And I think what has been done through the strategy for energy in Egypt, which started already with 37%, and after a revision, it has been increased even for more than 40%, and there is a potential to be more than 60, but for sure it needs different technical and infrastructure issues to be considered to reach such a target.
Exactly as you pointed, because one of our questions was basically about what could be needed in operation of the transmission system to take care of this high share of renewable energy. It's increased demand on ancillary services, so substantial change. Our forward question, maybe the last question to Engineer Ahmed about transportation sector. The question is about mentioning that 30% of final consumption goes from transportation. We hear that there is a plan to switch to natural gas for transportation. There is plans to switch to electric mobility for transportation. We hear that there is a plan to switch to hydrogen for transportation. What's the plan?
Okay, actually, as the question indicates that transport is the major consumer of gasoline and diesel fuel, and those are main products of the petroleum sector. So we are very much keen to deal with transport sector. Right now, even in the energy efficiency strategy of the petroleum sector, I asked our consultant from Human Dynamics to include some overarching objective or targets that the petroleum sector and all the other sectors that consumes our petroleum sector product should have a clear energy efficiency strategies and target objectives, and even program and project. As you said, we have different initiatives right now in Egypt to increase the natural gas consumption in transport sector. The compressed natural gas, we increase the fueling station, and we increase the fuel switching facilities to switch gasoline and diesel cars to compressed natural gas. This one activity, but we would like also, and also we have the initiative of electric car, but I would like to have, as all the other country all over the world have a minimum energy efficiency standard for the current vehicle. We have to have a limit for minimum energy efficiency of different vehicle, especially the large transportation vehicle, and also for public sector, public car also. This is our intention in our energy efficiency strategy, but we cannot work in this activity alone. We have to have other counterparts. So in our strategy, we will pinpoint that we have to deal with this point. And when we conclude our strategy, we will try to cooperate as an outcome of our strategy with different ministries to develop this energy efficiency strategy for different sectors. And this is my perspective right now.
Okay, a very quick question, Engineer Ahmed. It's about turbo expanders opportunity in the gas sector. Is it acceptable technically by GASCO?
Let me answer this
quickly, please, because this is a lot.
It's very competitive and very much cost effective. We studied these opportunities, and with the fluctuation of natural gas pressure in the transmission line during our revolution, so we have some doubt about the stability of the pressure, and also with the introduction of a lot of new petrochemical facility, the pressure in the transmission line is fluctuating. But I guess after finalizing our project with GASCO, which is funded by the EBRD, we will have some sort of stabilized pressure, and in this time we can reinvestigate the turbo expander, especially in the transmission side.
Thank you very much. I would appreciate very much. I think kept 78 participants to the end of our webinar, which is great. I believe it's great success, and thank you for the presenters, because this is primarily attributed to their knowledge, contributions, and insights they provided. I would like to thank all participants and attendees for providing questions. Sorry we couldn't answer all the questions. Sure, this webinar has been recorded and it will be available on YouTube. A link will be sent to all of you regarding the webinar, as well as the presentation will make available. Thank you all, and looking forward to see you in our next webinar. Thank you again, and goodbye, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.
Thank you very much.